Okay, so I'm presenting to you a project called Wye House, which is in Wye River. Right. So I guess there are three things I just wanted to highlight at the start of the project. One is, or at the start of the presentation, one is that this is for a post-bushfire build, so following the 2015 Christmas fires at Wye River. And so there was obviously this concern about how to respond to that in relation to the new build. The second one was the clients are a multi-generational family, so grandparents, parents, and then their child, a young son. And then the third, I guess point that I wanted to make was that this view of their site right now that you see here, just after the fires, was a view that they didn't have prior to the fire. So one of the things that we were sort of really interested in is what's this new perception of the context that they were dealing with, and they had this ocean view which they didn't previously actually have, even though they were so close to the rocks, only 100 metres away from the surf. So this is the site on the promontory of land between Separation Creek and Wye River. And one of the things, I guess, it was really quite a really tricky location. Very difficult access via an unsealed road. We were dealing with a flame zone / BAL 40 bushfire rating. There were concerns about landslip. In fact, we did have issues of landslip on adjacent sites and so on, because the land was heavily cleared by Grocon following the fire. We're about 100 metres, as I said, from breaking surf. There's an average 30% gradient across the site. Very significant wind loads. And then also very limited services connections, so we really only had power. And this diagram, this was presented to the clients in the second presentation that we gave to them, which was really trying to, I guess, identify an overlap between the context, the Bass Strait, Wye River and Separation Creek, the fact that there were 3 generations of a family that were living there, and also their keen insistence that we really thought, I think, very carefully about the communal nature of the fact that this was a beach house where they were spending time together. So the living, dining and kitchen areas of the building were, I guess, overlapped over those other 2 conditions, which were sort of a triptych, I guess. So that followed all the way through the project into the final footprint of the building. You can see the orientations towards Separation Creek, Wye River, and then the entry point from the hillside of the site. And you can see on the right-hand side, you can see the plan as well. So the dining, living and kitchen spaces have pretty much settled on where we sort of identified them very early on in the process. The other thing I wanted to sort of make mention of was that we really encourage our clients to minimise footprint as the best way to deal with sustainability. So, I mean, yes, we're dealing with passive design principles and so on and so forth, but the house is 160 square metres, so it's about 2/3 the size of an average family home. And you can see the size of the footprint here relative to the other buildings. So we're a significantly smaller house. And we use, I guess, design strategies to sort of, which I'll talk about in a minute, as to, I guess, how we might address that question of scale. We talked a lot with the clients about the idea that this was a starting point for a sort of, I guess, a new perception understanding of the site, and we talked about, and we used this phrase of dating for growth. I love the work of Gerhard Richter, and so we showed his work and talked about the sort of abstract notion of the landscape, sort of the horizon line out towards the sea. And then also that followed through in terms of how the building was treated. So there's this very strong horizontal dating through which you sort of experience as part of the architecture, and also in a material sense. So the charcoal was really meant as a backdrop for the sort of change of landscape that was going to occur in future years as regrowth occurred. And you can see here in the experience of, this is one of the main bedrooms with a view, this abstract view, the Gerhard Richter painting here, and then the view out towards Separation Creek. We also focused very carefully on how this construction was going to take place, because there were these very difficult challenges of access. So we settled on the use of steel to minimise excavation to the site with the problems of landslip and so on that was founded into rock. and also those early shop drawings meant that we could set the geometry very early on in the process, which the builder could work off, and this became effectively a working platform for them to build. Yeah, so it's a really effective way of actually dealing with this problem of site access. And it also then followed through in terms of your experience of the building. So there was sort of midpoint access halfway up the house, which is also doubles as an external shower, as well as obviously the main entry point. And then towards the sea, the building elevates obviously and really captures all of those views. We focused also on sort of really resolving this question of the external skin of the building because it was Bauer 40 rated, so everything is fire resistant. Custom designed rainwater heads and downpipes. Everything's highly sort of, I guess, resolved in terms of its detailing with this question of bushfire rating. And that also followed into the interior and how we resolved sort of using a herringbone pattern at the intersection of these three arms of the building, the Y shape. Thank you. It also carries through in the butcher's block, which is of sort of the main island bench of the kitchen, again in terms of detailing. And then I mentioned before this question of how to deal with a building which is relatively small scale. So the building changes a lot in its perception and its materiality and its whole sort of range of conditions. And particularly, this is the entry point of the building. So vertical, very strong vertical condition, which then twists to become a horizontal one towards the horizon line. So there's this change in orientation from the vertical condition to the horizontal, and particularly this idea of sort of moving from an urban environment into this coastal one. And you can sort of see it here in the section of the building as you travel down the slope, then it becomes this horizontal condition. In function, so this room here, that's a fold-down bed that you just see here, but so it doubles as a bedroom as well as a living space with retractable doors so that it allows for privacy. Strong sort of sense of material variation. So the use of the external cladding, which we've used a product that's highly corrosively, well, deals with high corrosion environments. And then also in scale, so from different, your perception of the building from different surrounding vantage points really shifts. And this is, so even though it's a small house, there's this sort of high variation of experience, both externally and internally. And that's it.